The idea is that the British had a sort of a epiphany of consciousness sometime in the late 1800s, and they decided to ban slavery. And they official history says that they did, and then they even sort of fought. They deployed their navy to fight slave ships. And it's interesting because at the same time they still own most of the colonial world. They're still shattering India. How much of that do we get wrong?
Does it make sense on the face of it that the people that operated the largest, most brutal slave trade in human history would also be the authors of freedom? What really drives the British towards abolition it is the fact that the enslaved resist on massive scale and make slavery increasingly expensive over the course of the 18th century. There are large scale organized slave rebellions that make the military expenditure and the kind of systematic repression and violence that is needed in order to keep the system going. That provides a particular kind of pressure from one side. Now, there is a morally rooted critique of slavery that emerges in Britain specifically that leads to a kind of liberal, argument for abolition of the institution. But even that is not the thing that people think that it is. So that is usually associated with William Wilberforce, who is the person who makes the case most effectively and in an impassioned way to the British Parliament. But that person, Wilberforce, is actually the student of the first great British abolitionist, a person called the Reverend Thomas Clarkson. And the Reverend Thomas Clarkson in 1789 writes a treatise called Letters on the Slave Trade, where he details the abolitionist movement led by African Muslims in the Senegal River Valley beginning in the 1770s. And he says that this is his inspiration for making an abolitionist argument. And he says of the leader of an African Muslim anti slavery movement in the Senegal River Valley, a person called Abdul Qadir Khan,